Thank you all for joining us today. We're very excited to see our general studies students here with us. If additional folks join in as we go, we are more than happy to have them as well. Today we will be hearing from Andrew Peñalva, our registrar, about the Office of the Registrar, the kind of services they offer, and how you might interact with the registrar during your time here at Ivy Tech. So I'm going to turn it over to Andrew to take it away.
Thank you, Amanda. I appreciate that. And good afternoon to those of you that are here, and hi to everyone who's going to be watching the recording. I am very happy and honored to have been invited to speak with you all today. As Amanda said, my name is Andrew Peñalva, and I serve as the registrar for Ivy Tech's Indianapolis, Lawrence, and Plainfield locations. And before we get into the presentation, which is going to be relatively short, I have maybe 5 slides that I'd like to share with you all. I'll share a little bit about myself first. So I've been working in education since about 2006. I started off as a 2nd grade teacher, and from there I taught English as a second language to students who were in kindergarten through 2nd grade. And from there I made the jump up to high school, where I taught for 4 years. And in 2019 was when I started my career here at Ivy Tech. I actually started with Ivy Tech Indianapolis, where I served as an assistant director of admissions and also as the Latino outreach coordinator. And I served in that position for 1.5 years until I accepted my current one as registrar in May of 2020. So I've been in this role as the registrar for the last 2.5 years, and I am enjoying it very, very much. So with that, we'll go ahead and get started. So what is a registrar? Some of you may be familiar with what the registrar office does. Some of you may have sort of an idea, and there may be some who are not familiar with our office at all, and that is okay. It's my hope that by the end of this talk, you'll have a better overview of what we do. But even more importantly, I'm going to go over some of the more common student scenarios that you could one day encounter. And you'll say to yourself, hey, I know what to do about this situation. I need to go see the registrar's office about it. So the registrar's office is responsible for many different tasks, but almost all of them are going to be related in one way or another to student records, which could be high school transcripts, grades, enrollment forms, even things to deal with graduation, which I'll touch on later. We work with many different facets of the student experience. So, and while our service area includes Lawrence and Plainfield, our main office is housed out of the downtown Indianapolis campus inside of the North Meridian Center building. So if you look at the picture that's on the slide right there, there's the NMC building. If you head in that entrance and take a left, you'll see us in room 141, and there's a big sign outside that says registrar. And Indianapolis is Ivy Tech's largest campus. So for a campus that is going to have over 10,000 students enrolled in it each semester, that is a lot of records to process and keep track of. So for this reason, we have a registrar team that's made up of 12 people. And I'm just curious, is there anyone on the call who has ever had any interaction with the registrar's office? Amanda, very much so. I know that.
I used to be the registrar for this service area, so I definitely had some.
Well, if I leave anything out, Amanda, feel free to let me know, okay?
Absolutely. Thank you.
Well, if you haven't had any interaction with the registrar's office, you will at some point. Okay, eventually you will at some point. And at the end of the presentation, I'm gonna leave you with some contact information for our office, so that if you ever do need to get in touch with us, you'll know how to do that pretty easily. And when I was in college, I wasn't super familiar with what the registrar's office did. So I'd like to go over some of the more common reasons that bring students to our office, so that if you happen to have any of these things come up, you know where to go. So And some of these things may not happen until later in your Ivy Tech journey, but perhaps some of you have already had some of these things come up, and this information will hopefully be helpful for you. So when students apply to the college, oftentimes they'll submit high school transcripts or test scores. And these high school transcripts and test scores like the SAT, PSAT, or ACT, those will come to the campus registrar. These high school transcripts and test scores, they're not mandatory, but they could be very helpful in that they can replace the knowledge assessment requirement if they meet certain criteria. So it could save you a step if you submit these scores. Another reason to get in touch with the registrar's office is if you are dropped for non-payment and you'd like to try and get re-enrolled in the course. So when students register for courses, a bill is generated, right? There's an amount of money that needs to be paid. And if the bill is not paid in time, the students will get dropped from their courses for non-payment. Now, sometimes this happens, and then the student gets their payment arrangements in place after their drop, and now they want to get back into the class. So if you ever find yourself in that situation, please reach out to us and we can help you with that process of getting re-enrolled in classes that you were dropped from. Another enrollment related scenario would be if you're wanting to add a course that has already started. So if this ever happens, you'll first want to get in touch with the instructor to get their permission to get added late to the course. But you can also reach out to us in the registrar's office, and we are happy to help facilitate that process and work with you and the instructor to get you back into the class. And next, there may come a time when you need to order an official transcript. So the official transcript, what it is, it'll be on green paper, and it's a record of all the classes you've taken at Ivy Tech and the grades that you earned. And these official transcripts are often needed if you're transferring to another college. We'll also have students need an official transcript to maybe show their employer if they're helping pay for their courses. And, maybe the employer wants to see what your grades were at the end of the semester. And when it comes to ordering transcripts, there are two types of transcripts, official and unofficial. You all, as students, are able to access your unofficial transcript via My Ivy anytime that you would like, okay? As long as you're still active in our system and you haven't been away from the college for more than 2 years. So those unofficial transcripts, you can get those yourself through My Ivy. The official transcript can be obtained one of two ways. You can either order it online through a website called Parchment. And when you order it online through Parchment, you put the recipient where you want it to go, and it's pretty immediate. It'll get sent out very quickly to whatever institution you list there. The other option is you can come to the downtown registrar's office and we'll print an official copy for you. Now, both of these options, whether you order it online or you order it in person, it's going to have a cost of $5. Official transcripts are most commonly used, in my experience, when a student is transferring to another college and they want to transfer the courses they took at Ivy Tech to their new institution. One thing I will say, if you come to the registrar's office downtown and you get an official transcript printed, we will seal it in an envelope for you. If that envelope is opened, it is no longer considered official, and the other college will not accept it for transfer credit. So be sure if you ever come down and you get a physical copy, we'll show it to you before we seal it in the envelope. It's very helpful if you can, examine it, make sure everything looks good, because once it's in that envelope and sealed, you can't open it or it's unofficial. And if you do, you'll have to, pay another $5 to get another one. And so this isn't an exhaustive list of reasons to contact the registrar's office. In fact, if you ever do have questions, you're welcome to reach out to us. And if it's not something that our office handles directly, we can always help you get in touch with the right people in the right office. Any questions so far? Okay. Next, I want to talk about applying for graduation. So this is another aspect of the registrar's office where we work very closely with graduation and the awarding of credentials. So it is important that students apply to graduate when they're getting ready to finish either a certificate, technical certificate, or their associate degree. This graduation application is completed electronically through your My Ivy account, and they come directly to the registrar's office. These graduation applications do. This graduation application is very helpful for us in the registrar's office because it gets you on the list of potential graduates that we mark as pending graduates, so that when final grades do come out for your last semester, you can get awarded that credential very quickly. Now, it's possible where students don't apply to graduate, and so they don't get awarded a credential that they actually finished. So, for example, we'll have students, they can write us or call us or come into the office months and months later and say, hey, I finished my associate degree 6 months ago, but I haven't received the diploma. And 99% of the time, it's because they never applied to graduate. So we can always go back and award the degree and get a diploma sent out for you. But to avoid those types of delays, we ask that students apply to graduate. Which kind of raises the question, when should you apply to graduate, right? So let's say you're going to finish your degree in May of the spring 2023 semester, okay, 2023 semester. So the classes you're going to finish in May 23 will be the last ones you need to take for your associate degree. Okay, that's the example we're going to use. That graduation application would have opened July 1st of 2022. Now, students can technically wait to apply to graduate until the very last day of that semester, and it happens. So in the example I'm giving you, a student graduating in May of 2023, they could wait until the very last day of that semester. But we always encourage students to apply earlier rather than later. And this is because it will give my office plenty of time to look at your record, confirm that you're in fact going to graduate, assuming you pass all the classes that you're scheduled to take. Or on the other hand, it'll give us time to look at your record and say, hey, you're actually still going to be missing 3 credits. So you need to get with your advisor ASAP so that you can get this additional class added to your schedule and still make sure that you graduate when you're planning to. So the dates that are listed here on this slide are when the graduation applications open, depending on when you're planning to graduate. So if you tried to apply prior to these dates for a particular term, you would not be able. Okay, this is the earliest that you can do it.
Andrew, are you going to talk about commencement too? I don't want to get ahead of you because that's part of the reason you would want to apply early also.
Commencement wasn't something on the list, but I'd be happy to. Yeah, but you're right. If you haven't applied to graduate, it's going to make it hard for you to get on the list of students who are going to participate in commencement, right? And so if you're looking to participate in commencement, it's really, really important that you apply to graduate.
And if you don't apply by the deadline, they'll send you tons of emails. Don't you worry. Once you apply to graduate or once it's time, they'll send emails, but you have to apply by a certain deadline to have your name printed in the program for that year. So that I know that's a huge deal for many students to be able to see their name in black and white there. So just make sure that you are keeping a close eye on these times that you can apply, because if you apply on this date, your name will be in the program. If this will give you plenty of time.
Yeah, and so this is, like I mentioned, we can always retroactively go back and award you a degree. But yeah, if you were wanting to participate in commencement, you're going to want to make sure that you get it done with plenty of time. So if you figure commencement's going to be, in May, you're going to want to get that done probably in March. And Amanda, I can send you a hard deadline of when that's going to be, so that you can share it out with your students.
Another tidbit I shared with students today in the general studies capstone course was we do only have one commencement ceremony now, and that is in May. So any term you graduate in the year, you would participate in the May commencement ceremony. So it usually will be a little bit closer to the commencement ceremony when you start getting information about that. And the other thing I told my students today in the capstone course also was commencement is always on a a Friday or Saturday, depending on when it is. Stay tuned for more details. But final grades aren't due until the following Tuesday. So just because you walk across the stage at commencement doesn't necessarily mean you've met all the requirements to graduate. So stay tuned to your Ivy Tech email and your mail after commencement to either see if there are still requirements you need to complete or if you receive your diploma in the mail.
Yeah, that's a great point, Amanda. And that's just really another reason to make sure that you're applying to graduate early. Because if there are any things that we need to catch or address, it's better to do it with enough anticipation so that you can, make arrangements in the terms leading up to when you're going to graduate.
Several
And
students in my class had some questions about, like, I've applied to graduate, the term has ended. Like, what happens after the end of the term once they've applied to graduate?
so when a student applies to graduate, what's going to happen is our office, we're going to mark that student as a pending graduate. Okay, so they get on the list. They're pending to be a May 2023, spring 2023 graduate, assuming they pass their classes. Right now, if a student, they fail or withdraw classes, now they don't meet the requirements and they'll need to do some makeup work. But assuming everything goes smoothly, students get marked as pending. And then as soon as final grades come out, and we can confirm that, yes, you do in fact meet all of the requirements for your program, our statewide registrar's office, records office, they have that list of all of our pending graduates and they start awarding those people right away. Okay, so that's why it's very helpful for you to apply, get marked as pending, and get on that list so that you're not experiencing any delays. And then usually the advertised time for diplomas to go out is 8 to 12 weeks after the end of the semester. Although I will say they're usually sent out a little bit quicker than that.
Sure.
Okay. But if you don't apply to graduate and you're not awarded the degree until months later, that's just going to push back when you get your diploma even further.
So students should either be watching their mailbox for their diploma, or what happens if something happens and a student does not meet the requirements to graduate after they've applied? Are they emailed to their Ivy Tech email address?
Yeah, so if a student applies to graduate and it turns out it's not going to happen, the registrar's office will send them an email letting them know, hey, your application for graduation was declined. And the best next steps after that are to get with your academic advisor, and they can look at your degree audit and say, well, this is the reason why you didn't graduate. Let's get that class scheduled for you in the next term. The other thing also, when you do graduate, you will get an email from Parchment letting you know that your diploma is on its way. Okay, so the way that
Keep an eye on your email either way.
Yes. Yeah. And everything will go through your Ivy Tech email. So please make sure if you don't check it too often that you at least have it linked so that it can those can get forwarded to your other email inbox. But yeah, everything that we send out, all communication will go to your Ivy Tech inbox.
This is a big one.
Yeah. So this is really one of the final things I wanted to touch on, and that is the Family Educational Rights and Privacy Act. And this is more commonly known and referred to as FERPA. So FERPA is a law that protects the privacy of certain student information. So when a student enrolls in college, it doesn't matter if they're a 16-year-old dual credit student who's still in high school. As soon as they enroll and start taking classes in college, they are going to have certain information protected under FERPA that we will not share. Okay. And since the registrar's office has access to so many records, we may get requests for student information. And depending on what the request is for, we may not be able to share it because it's protected. Okay, we want to keep certain information of yours private. For example, if you have, mom or dad or your boss reach out and they ask what grades you got last semester, we would not be able to share that information. Other things that are protected under FERPA would be financial aid information. So have you taken out any loans? Have you received any scholarships? We would not share that information either. Another is account balance information, which would include how much you owe for the semester. And lastly, we would never share any academic information such as your grades or your class schedule. Now, if you did want to share any of this information with a particular person, you can do that. Okay, arrangements can be made so that this protected information can be shared. What you would need to do is come to the registrar's office with a photo ID, and we would have you fill out a FERPA release form. It's a quick process, and once it's complete, we will share the protected information verbally or via a secured email with the listed individuals. It's also important to note that FERPA does not allow the people you list to act on your behalf. For example, if you listed your boss on the form that you want to share, your class information, your financial aid information, that does not give them the authority to do things like register you for classes. It doesn't give them the authority to request transcripts on your behalf or say withdraw you from classes. Okay. It only allows us to share that information that you have given us permission to share. If you complete a FERPA and then later on you decide, you know what, I don't want to share that information with that particular individual any longer, you can come back to the registrar's office and we'll have you update the form confirming that you want to rescind the access to that person. And just to give you an example of how FERPA works, if you did complete a FERPA release form, let's say you listed, your mom or dad on that paper saying, I want to share my grades with them, you would come up with a 6-digit code. It can be numbers, letters, a mix, you pick it, okay? Six digits. So then if mom or dad ever called and said, hey, I would like to know, what my son's grades were for the last semester, we would ask them to provide that 6-digit code. So it'd be very important that you share that with whoever you list on the paper. And if that person cannot provide that code, we wouldn't share anything with them, okay? And if they can provide it, then we would share whatever you gave us permission to share with them. Any questions about FERPA?
Andrew, we all have tons of passwords. What if they forget the password? What can the student do to kind of retrieve that password or reset that password possibly?
Well, my preferred method is always doing it in person. It's, to me, I think that's maybe the most secure way. If the student can just come to campus, come to the registrar's office, we can provide them with that 6-digit code again, because we'll have it on file after it's filled out. If a student wanted to maybe do it via phone call, we would need to confirm some information with them over the phone to make sure, just trying to confirm their identity for security purposes.
Sure.
So yeah, but if you ever do forget that, you're more than welcome. I would prefer that you come down to campus, visit us in NMC 141, and we'll let you know what your passcode is.
And those things are just, again, to protect your privacy. So we can make sure that we are giving the passcode to you and not some random person.
Yeah, and that's why this form is really important. If you wanted to share information with mom or dad, they couldn't come down themselves and initiate this process. It needs to be initiated by the student. Okay. And as the student, we don't want you to feel any pressure to share information with people if you don't want to. That's totally your choice. So that's why we prefer, we require that it's the student who initiate the FERPA release form and not the third party.
Andrew, this is not related to FERPA, but it is another question that I'm sure you hear a lot. If a student takes a look at their unofficial transcript or their grades for a semester and there's a grade that's missing or a grade that's wrong, and they contact you, how will you advise them? Because a lot of times they're like, well, at the registrar's office, they have the transcript. What do they do in that situation?
So in those situations, let's say that there's just a grade that's just missing, right? So maybe you get into your unofficial transcript, you took a class last semester, and when you look at the grade next to it, it says something like NG or no grade. There's no typical letter grade next to it. You would, yes, please reach out to us in the registrar's office, and then we will work with the faculty member or your instructor to figure out what's going on, what was the grade that we need to get input in there. And then what we'll do on our end is we have a form that faculty will complete so that we can get that missing grade input. Likewise, if you took a class and you got an A, but when you check your unofficial transcript or your official transcript and it's shown as a B or anything different than an A, also get in touch with us and we'll work with the faculty member to make sure that you get the correct grade applied to your record. Good question.
Thank you.
And that does happen, right? When, as someone who was a teacher, you have 25, 30 students in your class and you're going through and you're inputting your final grades.
It's a manual process.
Yeah, you can miss key, right? Where it happens. And so if it ever does, it can be fixed. Just know that. Okay.
I don't think I have any other questions. Let me check the chat real quick. I don't see any questions in the chat, so please proceed.
Well, okay. Well, I'll close by sharing all of the contact information for the registrar's office. We have our Indy registrar at Indy-registrar at ivytech.edu address, which is our general inbox. If you have questions related to graduation or diplomas, we have our Indy-graduation address. And then you can see on the right-hand side there, I included the phone number for the office if you prefer phone, and my email address as well. You're always more than welcome to reach out. And like I said earlier, if you have a question and you're not sure who to reach out to, you're always welcome to contact us in the registrar's office. It may not be something that falls under, our umbrella of authority or something that we're directly responsible for, but we can always get you in touch with the right people.
Does anyone have any questions for Andrew? Well, if there are no questions, please feel free to reach out to Andrew or the registrar's office or me if you have any questions, and I can also help get you pointed in the right direction. Be on the lookout for this recording to be sent out, and then if Andrew has any handouts he'd like me to send out as well, I can include those in the email. And have a great rest of your week, and hopefully we will see you all soon. Take care. Have a great day.
Bye, everyone.